Well, I'm excited for this conversation. We're engaging our conversations around freedom as a community. Now, I had a dream about this talk last night where halfway through everyone left in boredom. I've never had that dream before, so we'll see if that happens or not. But we started this conversation about freedom last week with Scott, and we were looking at what it looks like to live a life defined by freedom. Here's the hard thing, is oftentimes we don't really know what freedom looks like. I have friends who are multimillionaires, and they live in a sense of depression constantly. So they could be free financially and then find themselves stuck emotionally in life. I know people who could be like completely healed, and then they find themselves stuck in thoughts that just repeat over and over and over again. I know people who will feel emotionally and mentally and even in their heart free, and yet they feel stuck physically in what's taking place at a body level. And so we are going to explore over the next 4 weeks what it looks like to find freedom in these 4 areas. See, when Jesus was asked what was the most important command that we could ever follow, he gives this to us in Mark chapter 12, verse 30. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Now, this wasn't like an exhaustive list, but he said if you were to love God with these arenas, with your heart, with your soul, with your mind, with your strength, there would be freedom that would come out of this. Now, before we even jump into this conversation around what it looks like to find freedom, here's what I do not want to have happen during this series. I do not want this to be a theoretical conversation about freedom. It's easy to do that, right? To come and hear nice words and go, that's great. Or how easy is it for us to have a conversation about freedom and the whole time we're thinking, my spouse needs to hear this, right? Or man, I'm going to send this podcast to so-and-so because they're not free, right? That's not what this is about. Here's what I would like for you to do right now. I would like for you to pick an area in your life where you don't feel free. Or maybe you feel free, but you know there's more available. I'd love for you to think about that arena. It could be a thought pattern that you're have that's like, man, this thought just runs me. It could be a habit that you found yourself in. It could be an emotion that drives you. It could be some area even physically in your body that you're just like, I don't even want to touch that. And today, as we have these conversations, and as we have these conversations over the next 4 weeks, I would love for you to listen and engage this conversation around that area. Because you could probably put that area into one of these categories. Oh yeah, this is a heart area, or this is a mind area, or this is a soul area, or this is a physical area. But the fact of the matter is they are all interconnected with one another. That our heart impacts our mind impacts our body impacts our soul, that they are all interconnected. And so don't let this conversation be a theory about what freedom looks like or for someone else. Allow the next 4 weeks to be a conversation between you and God around what it looks like to step into freedom in this area. And we're going to start with heart, because that's what Jesus started with. Now, oftentimes, when we talk about heart, the immediate thing that we go to is our emotions. In fact, when we think about heart, we think about like this big red graphic of a heart, and loving one another. And when we talk about loving God with all of our heart, we assume that what it means is that we really, really need to love God. You need to feel it. And for some reason, if you're not crying, it doesn't count, right? And you got to get all the feels in there and connected. We just got to feel it in our bones. And then there are some emotions that are good, like joy and peace and love. And then there's other emotions that are bad, like anger and sadness and despair. And so Jesus must want us to get rid of the bad emotions and expand the good emotions. But actually, when you look at the concept of heart in the scriptures, it actually has nothing to do with emotions. In fact, we'll talk about this in 2 weeks, that the biblical concept of emotions actually have more to do with your mind, which may sound crazy, but we'll go there with me for a minute. But I want to talk to you about what the heart is. If it's not loving God with all of your emotions, what is it? And if it's not finding freedom from your emotions, what is it then? There's this moment where Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, he talks about these arenas in his life where he struggles. And I want you to see if you can relate to him in Romans chapter 7, verses 15 and 19. He says this, "For I do not do the good that I want to do." Can anyone relate to that? There are good things in my life that I want to do and I just don't do them. And he says, "But the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing." Anyone relate to that? There's arenas in your life where you're knock it off. And for some reason, you keep doing it, right? I can't tell you how many times I've had a bag of chips in my hands, and I'm like, do not eat another chip, right? And then he goes, I do not understand what I do. Ever feel like that? Ever feel like, why do I do what I do? For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. Ever feel like Paul here? I mean, this is so relatable that there's a whole list of things that I want to do that I don't do. Whether it's, hey, I want to go to the gym, I want to have that conversation with that person, I want to be vulnerable, I want to be generous, I want to start loving, and I just don't do those things. And then there's this whole other things that you wish you would stop doing, that you don't stop doing. Like, I want to stop yelling at my kids and my spouse. I want to stop being angry. I want to stop putting that extra chip in my mouth. I want to stop letting the anxiety take over. And yet we find ourselves doing the things that we don't want to do. Now, here's the crazy thing. When you think about that area in your life that you want freedom in, how many of you could already say, yeah, I think I know what I need to do? For most of us would be like a yes there, right? Or if you don't know what to do, you probably know where to Google it, yes? Like, just hop on ChatGPT and be like, I'm stuck here, what should I do? And it'll tell you, right? See, the problem is not knowing what to do. And that's what makes this so much more frustrating, isn't it? It'd be one thing if you're like, man, I need to lose weight, and I have no idea how any human being does that. How do you do that? See, it'd be one thing if you're like, man, I need to save my money, and I just have no idea how to do that. It would be one thing if you're like, man, I just want to stop yelling at my kids or my spouse or being so angry, and I have no idea how to lower my tone. My vocal cords just won't let me go there. See, that would be one thing, but it's so frustrating because so many of us actually know what to do, and we don't do it. That's what makes this incredibly frustrating. And what it also lets us know is that there's something else in the mix. There's what we say we want, and then there's what we do. Or there's what we say we don't want, and then there's what we don't do. And that just lets us know that something else is in the mix. See, because when Jesus talks about the heart, when the scriptures talk about the heart, it's not talking about emotions. It's actually talking about what's referred to as the executive center of ourselves. It is the core part of us that makes up who we are. I want you to think about it as the command center of your life. How many of you are aware of that little voice that lives inside of you? Yes? That little voice that just said, what little voice? That one, right? That's constantly talking to you. It's constantly informing you. And I want you to imagine that you have like this little person inside of you pulling the levers. It is at the command center of your life, and it informs you of what you do, what you don't do. It informs you of what you say, what you don't do. It is the center where your choices are made, where your commitments are made, where your deepest desires lives. It is your true self beyond anything else. It is this internal voice that guides and directs you, and that we are sometimes aware of, and other times we're not aware of. But it is the command center of who you are at your core. Which is the problem here? Have you ever seen someone do something really destructive in their lives, either to themselves or they've done something really destructive to someone else, and they've made this statement, well, I had a good heart. Ever heard that statement before? It's kind of annoying, isn't it? Or maybe you've told that to yourself. You're like, well, I had good intentions, right? I had a good heart. I remember I was teaching high school for a year, which should have never happened. And I was teaching high school, and I was teaching freshmen at the time, and I had the captain of the freshman JV football team in my class. And this kid did not turn in a single assignment for the entire first semester. And I remember the first day of first game came, and he was ineligible to play because of my class. And I get a call from the principal, from both parents, from the football coach, and the student for a conference. And so I get pulled into the room, and mind you, this was a Christian private school, which I won't say any judgments about that. But I'm pulled into the room, and we're talking about why he has an F in my class. And I said, it's actually pretty simple. He hasn't done any of his assignments. And we start working through, and I said, I've actually given him multiple opportunities to do extra credit. I've asked him about where they are. We've had conversations. I've documented all of this. He's not interested in doing his homework, so he's getting an F. And I will never forget, the principal looked me in the eye, and he said, well, doesn't it count that he has such a good heart? To which I replied, if he had a good heart, he would have done his assignments. See, because there are times where we do something and then we say on the other side, well, my heart was in a good place. Or maybe you find yourself in the same breakdown over and over and over again, and you find yourself trying to convince yourself, well, my heart was good in this. Here's actually what the scriptures tell us about our heart in Jeremiah 17:9. It says this, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? This is what the scriptures actually tell us about our heart. See, if you want to find freedom in your heart, in the executive center, at the core of who you are, the command center of your life, the first thing that you have to come to admitting and recognizing and owning is that it is incredibly confusing and that you or anyone else does not get it. You cannot at any moment say, I totally know my heart. You don't, because it's lying to you here in this moment. Well, that's actually the one thing you can know, is that it's lying to you. Because it says, above everything else, it's deceitful. Now, here's the thing. I tried to find some more appealing words other than deceitful when I was writing this talk. Because I was like, that's kind of harsh, Nathan, or Jesus. That's kind of harsh, right? So I was like, what are some synonyms to deceitful? So we could use fraudulent, lying, cheating, devious. It just got worse from there, right? It just got worse and worse. So I said, let's just stick with deceitful. Now here's the thing. It actually should not be a shock that your heart is deceitful above all things. Because here's the things. You said you know the area that you want freedom in. And for the most part, you know what you need to do. And if you don't know what to do, you know where to go to get the information to figure out what to do. And you still don't, right? So that should just let us know right off the bat, oh, there's some deceit going on. There's something else in the mix that when we say, I am committing to this, and then I don't, that there is some deceit happening at a core level. Now, here's the thing. In our pop psychology culture, we would look at that and we would just tell ourselves, you need to do better. Right? How many of you ever told yourself that before? I just need to do better. I just need to be better. I just need to do better. I need to do it more. I need to do it harder. I need to do it like with all my heart. And so now we say, I just need to do better. I need to be better at dieting. I need to be better at my budget. I need to be better at vulnerability. I need to be better at relationships. I need to be better at anger. I need to be better at parenting. You can go on. And so we find ourselves now saying, I just need to be better. However, what the scriptures say is that your heart is beyond cure. So you doing it better is actually not going to do anything, which means that a better performance will not actually help what's taking place at a heart level. To be honest, this is like when people come to me and they say they're diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and we're grieving and they say, I think I'm just going to do essential oils. I'm like, we're beyond essential oils, all right? This will not work at this point, right? And because here's the thing. We often assume that what God wants from us is just a better performance. And so when we find ourselves out of alignment with our intentions, when we find ourselves out of alignment with who we say we're committed to be and what we say we're committed to do, we immediately go into, well, I assume God wants me to perform better for him. He wants me to do better. He wants me to act in a better way over there. And here's the thing, is that it just leads us to more bondage. Because now we're still stuck in this area that is deceitful and beyond cure, but now we're just exhausted from trying to fix something that is unfixable. And so now, on top of the bondage, we find ourselves exhausted from trying to fix it. So what do we do? See, in Psalms 51, starting in verse 16, he says, this is what David says to God. He says, you do not delight in sacrifice or I would bring it. In other words, you don't want me just to perform for you. You don't want me just to do the thing, the religious thing over and over for you. And it says, you do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart. God, you will not despise. See, here's the thing. If there is any doubt that your heart is deceitful, if there is any doubt that your heart is beyond repair, you will continue to exhaust yourself trying to save yourself from your own brokenness. And it will lead to more and more and more bondage. See, your heart is still deceitful and beyond repair. Now you'll just be depressed because you've given it all and it still doesn't work. But see, God does not want our perfection. He does not want our performance. He does not want a better version of us brought to him. You know what he wants? He says, hey, here is my heart that is in pieces, that is deceitful, that I am incapable of correcting. I keep saying I want this, and I do this, and I don't know why I'm doing this. And he says, look, would you be willing just to recognize that your heart is deceitful and beyond repair? And would you bring it to me as an offering? See, this is good news for us. Because there's nothing that you need to manufacture on your own other than saying, I'm a mess. I don't know what to do with this. In fact, I'm incapable of doing anything with this. And now I offer it to you so you can continue to exhaust yourself attempting to be a better person. Or you can just come to him with all the pieces and say, here you go. And here's the beautiful thing. This is what he promises in Ezekiel 36, starting in verse 26. He says this, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh, and I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. Then you will live in the land I gave your ancestors. You will be my people, and I will be your God. I love this imagery because here's what God says. He doesn't come to you and say, thank you for sharing with me with your brokenness. You can go on your way. He doesn't even say, I'm going to fix you. He doesn't say, I'm going to take the broken pieces, we're going to put some scotch tape around it spiritually, we're going to take some Jesus glue and glue it all back together. He actually says, I am interested in removing your old heart that is deceitful, that is beyond repair. I will remove that from your life, and I will give you a new heart. That heart that is hard, that heart that is inoperable, that heart that causes you to do all kinds of crazy things that you say you don't want to do, and all the things you do, you want to do, you don't do. I will remove that from you, and I will give you back a new heart so that you are completely transformed as a result of handing it over to him. See, a few years ago, you can clap for that. A few years ago, my car engine just died on me, just like completely died on the freeway. And my warranty was 100,000 miles, and I was at 104,000 miles. And I was like, oh man, of course, they planned this, right? They planned this. That was my first skeptical thought. And I bring it into the dealership. I won't say the brand, but it rhymes with Hyundai. I bring it in, and they start talking to me about how expensive this is going to be and all the things. And so we go back and forth, and turns out the thing was under an extended warranty because the engines were going out. And they said, you know what we're going to do? We're not even going to fix your engine, which immediately my heart sunk. They said, we're just going to replace a brand new engine in your car. And they did that for free, which was awesome. And here's the crazy thing. Even though my odometer right now reads 112,000 miles on it, there's a brand new engine inside of that car. So I'm like, this puppy's going to run for a little bit longer than what it's supposed to, not because they fixed what was broken, not because they put scotch tape over what was missing, not because they said we're going to go in and tinker with it a little bit. They're like, we're going to remove the broken parts. We're going to take everything that's not working. We're going to give you something brand new so it'll be completely transformed as a result of that. See, some of you are still stuck simply because you refuse to humble yourself and say, I am incapable of fixing this on my own. Look, it is beyond repair, it is deceitful, and the second that you recognize your heart is lying to you, and that your heart is completely in pieces beyond your repair, you will just keep spinning your wheels, trying to be a better person, doing all the right things, and this whole time God is just saying, would you just bring me the pieces? I would love to swap out your engine. I would love to hand you over a brand new heart. I will give you something brand new. Now here's the thing. I know that some of you in this room have actually experienced that. Many of you in this room have had this radical encounter with Jesus where he took the old broken pieces in your life and handed you something new. And there's a powerful exchange that takes place there. But here's the thing. How many of you, like me, have had that experience And you get your new engine, you get your new heart. You're like, wow, life is good. Things are awesome. Things are great. And then a few months later, you go back to running your engine out, right? You go back to the very same thing that destroyed your heart in the first place. And now you find yourself in a pickle over here. You go right back to the very same things that caused your heart to be the way that it was today. I got off a flight last night from Knoxville, and I don't know if any of you fly often, but there are certain movies that are like my go-to that I watch usually about once a year because they're just easy movies to watch on the plane. Crazy Rich Asians, that's a good one for me. But on this last flight, I watched Erin Brockovich. Anyone seen Erin Brockovich before? It's not a great movie. I don't recommend it. It's not a pastoral recommendation. But in this movie, Erin Brockovich is a lawyer, and she takes on PG&E because what had happened is they had these tanks of water that were contaminated, and the water was seeping into the soil, and as a result of that, all the people in the surrounding towns were getting cancer and dying and getting sick, all kinds of horrible problems. And she found it was because they had failed to line these pools filled with toxic waters, filled with chromium, and now everyone was getting sick as a result of that. But here's the thing, for years and years and years, the doctors had been treating all of this cancer, and they had been treating all of these horrible illnesses in this city, just illness after illness after illness, trying to treat it, and they could not figure out why all these people were getting sick. And so they sent more oncologists into the city, and they're like, I guess we need to just send more doctors into here to make sure these people are taken care of. And they did not recognize that the source of all of this sickness, the source of all this cancer, the source of all this disease was actually the poisoned water wells that were seeping into the ground. Now, there's a point with this. I'm not just helping you recap Erin Brockovich. Proverbs 4:23 says this about our heart after it has been given back to us. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything else flows from it. See, once we have been given a new heart from God, it is our responsibility to guard it from contamination. See, because just like in that city, where this chromium was being leached out into the water, into the soil, and now causing all this havoc, it would have been easy to just keep treating the symptoms over here. Like, let's get more oncologists, let's get more doctors, let's get more medicine, or we can cut off the poison in the wells over here. See, if your heart is contaminated, from it flows everything else. And so we can find ourselves treating behavior, treating thought processes, treating actions or inactions, or we can deal with the contamination that exists over here. Because here's the thing, if in the well of your heart now lies bitterness and greed and envy and striving and anger and scarcity, when your heart goes unprotected, all of those contaminants will flow out from your life and show up all around you. And all of this unwanted behavior and thought patterns and actions will flow from that. And they are just an indicator of a contaminated heart. They're just the indicator of this heart. See, part of living free is not just exchanging your heart with the Lord for a new one, but it is also guarding it from future contamination at any given moment. And when I see it and I don't address the behavior, the heart just keeps on poisoning. But if I'm willing to go, man, there's all this unwanted behavior over here, there must be something going on at a heart level that I'm not guarding from. There's some poison that's entered in. I noticed early on when as a father, that I was very short with my boys. I noticed that at times I was short with them, more frustrated than normal. There's the normal frustration, and then there's the more frustration than should be there, right? And so I went on this search with a friend of mine who was a coach, and she said, could it be that you're living in some bitterness? And at first I was like, maybe, I don't know. And she said, I want to give you an assignment. Why don't you just spend some time in silence this week and write down the names of anyone that you still have energy around from your past, anyone that you still have resentment towards, anyone that you still haven't forgiven, or maybe you forgave and then you unforgave. Just write it all down in a journal. 2 weeks later, I had 144 names down. And I was like, oh, there might be something contaminating the wells, right, of my heart. This might possibly be contributing to this over here. And I realized that if I was going to ever have a future with my sons where they were not going to get the brunt of that anger, then I would choose to clean out the wells of my heart through forgiveness on a regular basis. I would guard my heart from resentment because I am uninterested in passing on that legacy to Colin and Jackson. I'm uninterested because from the heart, everything flows from it. Now, I could spin my wheels in anger management classes and trying to figure out why I'm angry and going through all this psychology, or I could have just been like, all right, Lord, I need a new heart, and we are going to trade this out, and now I will guard it by going through a daily practice of forgiveness, a daily practice of like, my heart will not be contaminated anymore by this. This will not work anymore. And so this is the process that we are invited into of continuing to address the contamination at our heart. See, Jesus constantly, have you ever noticed that Jesus did not give us a lot of do's and do not lists? I wish he would have. That would have made things a lot easier. But he doesn't. In fact, he almost contradicts some of the do's and do not lists in the scriptures because he's actually not interested in the behavior. See, notice this in Matthew 5:21 through 22. You have heard it said to the people long ago, you shall not murder. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. Now, he could have just stopped there and said, keep doing that. Yeah, it's good. Don't kill anyone, right? But he adds this, but I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to the same judgment. Anyone who says to his brother or sister, Raka, or you fool, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says you fool will be in dangers of the fires of hell. Pretty strong language here, right? Because again, Jesus could have just been, don't kill anyone, that's a good plan, let's keep that in play. But he notches it up a bit, and he actually says, it's not enough just to not do bad things. I know you think that's what I want from you, that's not what I want from you. He said, I would love for you, because behavior flows from the heart. Everything flows from what's taking place at our heart level. He says you actually have to address the heart issue, because if you do not address the heart issue, it will just show up in other ways. He says, great, you're not murdering anyone with a gun. You're just murdering them with your words. You're just murdering them with your thoughts. You're just murdering them with your attitude. He says it's the exact same attitude of heart that just fuels different arenas. Great, you stop murdering. Now you're just slandering. And I love this. I just got back from 3 days working with a huge recovery community in Knoxville. And it was beautiful. Here's the funny thing about all 12-step meetings that I find, is that most people are like, I've stopped drinking, and everyone's like, awesome, and everyone's addicted to caffeine. I've never seen more people drink coffee than someone in a 12-step meeting. And if you ever been to AA, everyone's smoking cigarettes outside. Not a big deal. And if you look at the snacks, it's packed with sugar. Because here's the thing, you can trade one addiction, one behavior, and not address the heart, and it just shows up somewhere else. So look, great, you're not addicted here. The addiction just pops up over here now. Now it shows up over here, and now it shows up over here. Now that's not a knock on 12-step. Please go to every 12-step meeting you can, but just notice what happens when we don't address the heart issue, how it pops up in other places. So, hey, I'm no longer an alcoholic. Now I just am reliant on nicotine and alcohol and sugar over here. Or how many times have I heard someone saying, I'm overcommitted. I'm serving too much. I'm giving too much. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to get out of everything and do nothing so I can just focus on me. And I would say both are the same attitude of heart. When people find themselves getting out of one toxic relationship right back into another toxic relationship, see what happens is we didn't address the heart issue. We didn't address what was going on from there. And so it just starts flowing out into other arenas. It just starts flowing out into other spaces. So you can attempt to just change the behavior all you want. You can white knuckle it and you can bear down. But until you address the matter of the heart, you are stuck. See, Jesus wants to free your heart, not just your habits. So freedom comes when you address the heart and you surrender it from God and then commit to guarding it from future spiritual contaminants and saying, I refuse to let this be contaminated over here. And here's the beautiful thing. Even our salvation comes from the surrendering of the heart. I love this verse in Romans 10, 9 and 10. You've heard it maybe a million times from me, but it says, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess and are saved. Now notice that we are called to believe with our heart, which sounds strange, right? Because you would think that the place that you believe things from is in your mind. Like when I say, I believe that gravity exists, that lives here, right? When I say, I believe I have blue eyes, that exists here. When I say, I believe that I live in Pomona, that exists here. When I believed that God raised Jesus from the dead, why am I called to believe that in my heart? Why all of a sudden does it drop down here? Because see, it's a very different thing to believe something with your mind and believe something with your heart. Those are two very different things. See, because when I find myself just having a nice idea about reality, that is very different from believing it in my heart. See, there is a world of difference between facts that I believe are true and realities that I believe are true that shape how I live my life, that impact my decisions, they impact what I commit to, they impact how I show up with people. There is a world of difference between those two. There is a world of difference between a bunch of nice ideas and realities that have shaped the very command center of my life. See, I can believe in my mind that Jesus is Lord all I want, but until I believe it in my heart, it will never actually transform how I live. See, because I can believe in my mind all day that Jesus can be trusted, but not believe it with my heart, and then find myself skeptical constantly. I could believe in my mind that Jesus will provide all my needs and not believe it in my heart. And so now I'm running around like hustling to make sure that I have what's mine and gets what's mine and not give away what's given and all of those things. I can believe in my mind that Jesus loves me unconditionally and not believe it in my heart. And so I have to keep striving and proving how lovable I am, how good I am so that someone will choose me. I can believe in my mind all day that Jesus keeps his promises, but until I believe it in my heart, I will constantly find myself needing to stay in control of my kids and my family and my life and my finances. I can believe all day that Jesus has my best interest in my mind, but until I actually believe that in my heart, it will not show up with how I give myself away to other people. But see, the moment that I believe in my heart that Jesus can be trusted, that he is who he says, that he provides all my needs, that he loves me unconditionally, that he has my best interest in mind, now my whole world shifts because it flows out into how I live my life. So you can just look at how you live your life, and it will inform you of what lives in your heart. But we live in a culture where we can say, I believe all kinds of things, and then go live opposite. And everyone will say, great that you believe that. It doesn't matter until it flows out from your life. Because until I believe it with my heart, I will live a divided life with a divided heart. And the moment I surrender my heart, it will become undivided, which is what Jesus longs for, which is where freedom lives, where I am no longer attempting to live two realities, but I step into the fullness of who God is and who I am into that. So do you want to be free from your heart? It actually starts by you recognizing that your heart is lying to you and you cannot do anything about it. And the good news is Jesus is not mad with you about that. In fact, he is so passionate about that he came for you on the cross and died and came to life so that you could come to him and say, here is all of my brokenness. I am incapable of fixing this. And he gladly says, I will take that heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will take the old and give you new. And then once he has made that transfer to you, it is our beautiful responsibility to guard our heart, to say, I refuse to let it stay contaminated with anger and with resentment and bitterness and hopelessness and despair and scarcity. I refuse, because from that, everything flows. And here's the thing. I am not interested in creating that legacy for myself, for my wife, for my kids, for our community. So I guard my heart so that I will allow love and hope and freedom to flow from that. And if you are willing to live from this place, you will be set free. Would you just close your eyes for a moment? And I'd like for you just to imagine right now. This may seem weird, but I want you just to imagine that Jesus is standing at the door of your heart. That's what the scriptures say he does, and he is knocking. And he's knocking on the door of your heart, and he's saying, I would like to come in. And as he's standing there knocking, I just want you to ask yourself the question, where have I been afraid to let him in? I want you to think about that area that you would like freedom in. Where in that arena have you been afraid to let him in? Where have you been afraid to say, hey, come on in, you get control, I surrender all of this to you? Where have you been unwilling to do that? Where have you been striving to just do better? Like, I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna look at the mirror every morning and give my affirmations, and then I'm gonna go out and try to be a better person. And Jesus is saying, I'm not interested in all that. So today, where are you willing to let him in? If he is standing there knocking, saying, I have freedom, I have life, I have fullness, I have abundance for you. He wants to give you a new heart where you love without fear, where you choose what is good and life-giving, where you live wholehearted, undivided, where you get to be strong and courageous, joyful even in suffering. And so today, would you let him in? I know there's some areas in your life that you may think, I don't know if I can trust him because people have let me down, or maybe you even think he's let you down. That's okay. He'd love to go again, to have something new take place. And if this morning you're here and you've never let him into your heart, maybe this is like the first time you're entering into a conversation with him, or maybe it's been a long time since you've allowed him in, and today you want to let him fully in. If that's you, for the first time today, or for the first time in a long time, you're like, hey, I want to let Jesus into my life so I can be free. Would you just raise your hand with no eyes looking around? Say, I'm going to let Jesus in today. Awesome. Who else? Who else? Awesome. Yep. All over the room. Yep. If you're online and that's you, you can just put in the chat, Jesus. And if that's you, I just want you to pray this super simple prayer. It's just, Jesus, I give you my heart. Would you just let him know that? Jesus, I give you my heart, and just surrender it to him. And he will take your heart, and he will give you a heart of flesh where there was a heart of stone. And if you made that decision today, I'd like for you to just go back to next step. There's a giant glaring neon sign back there. We would love to say hello to you, to talk to you about that decision, to support you in what's next. But Jesus, I thank you that you stand at the door of our heart and you knock, not to condemn us or to ask us to do more, but to set us free. And so today, Jesus, I ask that you would come, take our humble hearts, our broken and contrite hearts, and would you replace them with something new? And God, would you convict us of the places that need to be guarded, where we have been lazy in our guarding, or we've been unwilling to do the work, God? Would you come and set us free so that we could live undivided lives with you? In Jesus' name, amen.